Hello, it's another wonderful Monday evening, and wherever you are, this is News at 10 on TV3 and 3FM 92.7. We're streaming live on our Facebook page and on 3news.com. Let's first start with a summary of the day's news highlights. The Public Utilities Workers Union, PUWU, is demanding the shutdown of the Teshie Desalination Water Project. It alleges investigations indicate Ghana Water Company is spending some 3 million cedis a month alone to pay electricity bills on the project without any benefits. And President Akufo-Addo has held bilateral talks with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Theresa May. The meeting was to strengthen the ties of cooperation between the two countries and move the bilateral relations to a point beyond aid. And Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has described the late broadcast journalist Kwejo Bafo Asare Champong, popularly called Kaba, as a professional who went about his duty with profound neutrality. The Vice President was speaking after he joined hundreds of mourners at the Multimedia Group Limited to pay tribute to the late broadcast journalist. And in Zimbabwe, the ruling ZANU-PF party says it will on Tuesday begin impeachment proceedings against President Robert Mugabe on charges that include allowing his wife to usurp constitutional power. Senior party member Paul Mangwana said the process could take as little as 2 days to complete, and President Mugabe could be removed by Wednesday. A deadline set by ZANU-PF for his resignation passed on Monday. And still on the international front, President Donald Trump has announced that the U.S. is redesignating North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism 9 years after it was removed from the list. In a cabinet meeting Monday, he said the move will trigger very large additional economic sanctions. Trump blamed the country's nuclear program and support for what he called international acts of terrorism. Those were our major news highlights. Remember, we're streaming live on our Facebook page, and you can also follow our live stream on 3news.com. Let's begin with our first story. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has held bilateral talks with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Theresa May. The meeting was to strengthen the ties of cooperation between the two countries and move the bilateral relations to a point beyond aid.
The pair also discussed issues bordering on next year's Commonwealth Summit. As preparations for the summit intensify, Prime Minister Theresa May told President Akufo-Addo that she and the people of the UK were looking forward to build a sound relationship and also developing historic ties with Ghana for the next 60 years. She indicated that increasing the volumes of trade between the two countries was the key to boosting the growth, progress, and prosperity of the two countries and their respective populations. She was hopeful that during her tenure of office, the UK will continue to build on the strong relationship we have with Ghana. President Akufo-Addo noted the strong relationship between the two countries have existed regardless of the government of the day, and assured Prime Minister Theresa May that under his leadership as President of Ghana, the already strong relationship will continue.
And Chief Justice Justice Sophia Ekufo has implored judges to work hard to win back public trust in the judiciary system. Speaking at the annual Chief Justices Forum in Kumasi under the theme Quality Judges Delivering Quality Justice, the Chief Justice said a high-quality judiciary is reflected in a high degree of public trust.
There cannot be meaningful judicial reforms if it is left only to the lawyers and judges. To create and build a good justice system, the people it serves have to be intimately involved. The failings repeatedly cited include slowness, cost, remoteness, complexity, resulting in an apparent lack of transparency, trust, and public confidence. In the last 15 years, my predecessors, the late Chief Justices Edward Redu and George Kingsley Acquah, started painstaking spade work, and Justice Georgina Theodora Wood, my immediate predecessor, brought on board many innovative ideas and measures. We need the effort of everyone to ensure that these efforts spread across the nation and will not be concentrated only in Accra and the urban centers.
Also speaking at the same forum, Asantehene Otumfuo said to the second tasked the Judicial Service to be innovative in exploring other sources of funding. He questioned the independence of the judiciary if it still depends on the executive for funding to undertake its operations.
I decried the situation where the judiciary dependent on the government for resources and funds for its operations and sustenance. So, I challenge the Judicial Council to be innovative and explore other avenues to source funds to promote its operations and endeavors. Your Ladyship, I expressed these concerns largely on the background of a presentation on the very disturbing images of the poor state of courts in the country, particularly in Ashanti at that time. From the images in the presentation that I see today, we have come a long way, but not far enough. There is a tendency of talking the talk, but not always walking the walk. I should also want to express that I still have my concerns about the constitutional obligation of three arms of government being independent of each other, and the judiciary is still going to the executive for money. I think we may have to challenge that in your cause to find out what the interpretation exactly is. The people of our country and all beneficiaries for whom the courts are operated no doubt support that special appeal that I made to the government to allow the judiciary to spend 100% of the internally generated funds, popularly called IGF, that come from court operations for the obvious reason the funds will support the judiciary in its efforts to improve the system, which will be for the benefit of all of us.
And away from the justice system, some youth groups in the northern region today hit the streets of Yendi to register their displeasure and frustration over the delay in inskinning a new overlord for Dagbon. The Dagbon Peace March, dubbed We're Tired, was organized by the Dagbon Malimi Zongo Damas Network in collaboration with other stakeholders in Dagbon. They called on the Committee of Eminent Kings to immediately come out with the final program or roadmap for the performance of the funerals of the late kings of Dagbon, Na Muhammadu Abdullahi IV and Na Yakubu Andani II, to pave way for the next Yana to be inskinned. And in a later development, the Executive Director of the African Center for Security and Counterterrorism, Yumano Koting, is happy the youth have chosen the path of rule of law and not violence to press home their demands. He spoke with Issa Moni on News 360 earlier.
If you look at the Dagbon issue per se, the causes are not structured in nature. They are of proximate in nature. Both the Abudus and the Andanis to come together for this kind of demonstration is quite unprecedented, and they need to be commended.
So who should they address? Where should they put, their problem?
To be very honest, they did a very remarkable thing today. You realize their petition is to the eminent chiefs who have been mandated to mediate in this conflict. And the eminent chiefs are headed by the king of the Ashanti Kingdom, His Eminence Otunfo Osetutu. And I'm so happy that they are choosing the rule of law over violence and to follow through the due process than petitioning government. I'm telling you, in the past, you realize petitions have always gone to government, and at the point, government that come and go were victimized one way or the other trying to resolve this issue. I think that the eminent chiefs should, as a matter of agency, address the petition. But what I think the eminent chiefs should also do is that, like we had in the Liberian situation, they should appeal to our mothers, women. I think if we have the critical mass of the youth and women together appealing to our fathers, we have a resounding peace in the state.
And following a meeting of its members of parliament, ZANU-PF, the ruling party in Zimbabwe, has told its chief whip, Lovemore Matuke, to initiate impeachment proceedings against President Robert Mugabe. The motion of proceedings is expected to be tabled before Parliament when it sits on Tuesday, November 21. Simon Kaya Moyo is ZANU-PF secretary for information.
Pursuant to the decisions of the ZANU-PF Central Committee, entered on the 19th of November 2017, recalling Comrade Robert Gabriel Mugabe from the position of President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF, the party wishes to announce that Comrade Alaji Mugabe has been formally notified of the decisions this morning. As for that, the party has instructed the chief whip to proceed with impeachment processes against Comrade Alaji Mugabe.
And former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, has also challenged Zimbabwe to solve its current leadership struggle through credible elections in 2018. According to Kofi Annan, a sustainable and legitimate election with integrity in 2018 is the only way to solve the current leadership impasse. Kofi Annan said in a statement that the enthusiastic crowds who marched in the streets of Zimbabwe's major cities over the weekend were demanding freedom, not just a change of leadership. Right, so quickly, we're going to Skype now to speak to Todd Maforimbo, who is a Zimbabwean human rights activist and a host of Strategy Room on Zimbo Live TV. He's joining us. Good evening, sir. Thank you. We're extremely grateful for your time.
Good evening.
So ZANU-PF, the ruling party in Zimbabwe, says it will on Tuesday begin impeachment processes against President Robert Mugabe. You may understand the parliamentary system in Zimbabwe much better. Is this likely to take very long?
Well, we need to understand that the person we're dealing with, Robert Mugabe, is a very intelligent man. He is the one that has been presiding over the system for the longest time. So I believe he's done everything that he could in the last 37 years to secure his position. So it will be a difficult one, but we can't underestimate the resolve of the Zimbabwean people to rid themselves of ZANU-PF and Robert Mugabe himself. And the fact that ZANU-PF are the ones spearheading this process, it could mean that it could be a very short process, depending on whether Robert Mugabe decides to play ball or not.
Interesting. So your comments suggest to me that there are many Zimbabweans like yourself who are not exactly optimistic about the chances of the members of parliament and the ZANU-PF successfully mounting an impeachment process to get Robert Mugabe removed.
Well, we are hopeful. As Zimbabweans, we've had a difficult time. It's been a long time coming, and it's about time that, you know, change came to the country. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry about that. My daughter's. But it's about time that change came to the country. We are hopeful. If you saw the numbers of people that actually turned out over the weekend to protest and to show their solidarity, hope is slowly coming back to the country, and the Zimbabwean people are really hopeful for change. And we encourage all Zimbabweans, motivating all Zimbabweans to get involved in the process, because, you know, the only way is up. The only way is up. We can only be hopeful now.
I'm sure by now you may have heard the statement that was issued by former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan believes that Zimbabweans can restore some credibility to their governance process and give authenticity and authority to a new president if they follow through with credible elections. Do you get the impression that Zimbabweans are now ready for that reform process that will lead to credible elections?
Zimbabweans have been ready for a long time. The only thing that has been stopping us has been the fear that has been instilled over us by ZANU-PF. Zimbabweans are probably among the most intelligent nation in Zimbabwe. We are the most advanced people when it comes to education and things like that. But it's just been that we've not been brave enough to step up and step forward to implement the change that we need in our country. We are very, very capable. Zimbabweans are a resolute nation, and we're able to push through with it. We just have to be resolute, and we can't stop. We have to keep going forward.
I like what you just said, that you needed just to be brave enough to step forward. So what changed? If you've not been braved for 37 years, suddenly, where did you get the bravery now?
Well, we've had the misconception that those people that went to the liberation struggle deserve first preference in everything. We have literally given them everything on a silver platter. And we've played second fiddle. We've allowed, sorry, excuse me, just a second. Can you take him out, please? Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We've allowed those people from the liberation struggle to take the lead. Sorry, just excuse me for a second.
Right, I'm afraid, yeah, if you can hear me, Mr. Mutombo, right, I think that he's trying to reposition himself so we can have a better conversation. But Todd Maforimbo is a Zimbabwean human rights activist, and you heard him on Skype, but he's still there. We'll wrap up with you, though. I know that this is a bit of a distraction. It's almost in the middle of the night. But Grace Mugabe, do we know her whereabouts?
Grace Mugabe is supposed to be at the Blue Roof. She's supposed to be at her house. All the reports that we've heard so far have confirmed that she's at the Blue Roof, along with her allies. We expect Jonathan Moyo and Sede Kasubuere to also be at the Blue Roof. We don't know what the process is going to be, but I'm suspecting that Mugabe is actually going to use them as a bargaining chip if he needs to bargain his way out. So Grace Mugabe is still very much in Zimbabwe. She's not left the country. All the reports that I know that have been confirmed that Grace Mugabe is still in the Blue Roof building that they own.
Interesting, Mr. Maforimbo. Thank you extremely for your time. We're grateful. Mr. Maforimbo Todd is a Zimbabwean human rights activist, and you saw him very much deep into the night, engaging with us on relevant issues affecting Zimbabwe. I'm Stephen Anti, and this is Accra. You're listening and watching us live from the News Hub at Addis Ababa. We have more news for you. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now, the Public Utilities Workers Union, PUW, is demanding the shutdown of the Teshie desalination water project. It is alleged investigations have indicated that Ghana Water Company is spending close to some 3 million Ghana cedis a month to pay electricity bills alone on the project without any benefits.
The agreement on the Teshie desalination water project was signed in 2015 between government and Messrs Befisa, a Spanish company. Messrs Befisa was asked to convert the seawater into wholesome water for residents of Teshie and its environs. In the agreement, the Ghana Water Company was asked to bear all costs, including electricity, for the treatment plant. In 2016, GWCL made a negative cash inflow of 7.2 million cedis a month, but had to pay $23.7 million to the company. That year, GWCL paid $1.8 million, leaving outstanding debt of $13.9 million. In September 2017, the Ghana Water Company had to pay $12.9 million to Befisa, leaving a debt of $7.2 million. According to POO, its investigations indicate that the Ghana Water Company pays capacity charge of $1.4 million monthly. This capacity charge is payable whether the plant is working or not, and it pays 3 million cedis monthly for power. POO's investigations further point out that Ghana Water Company buys water from the plant at 6 cedis 50 pesos per cubic meter and sells to PURC at 1 cedi 50 pesos. It revealed that every water purchased and sold, Ghana Water pays 5 cedis.
We don't want a situation where such arrangements, which are more or less foisted on the management, and then over time it contributes to so many losses, and then somebody will one day sit up and say that, oh, this company is inefficient, let's give it to a private operator. Let's do the right things now.
POO has again implored government to consider shutting the plant and abrogate the contract.
When the plant is shut down, it's far better for GWCL than when the plant is operating, because every month, in addition to these other obligations, if the plant is operating, Ghana Water Company has to pay the electricity bill for the operation of this plant.
Meanwhile, POO has called on government to ensure the reduction in electricity bills announced in the 2018 budget do not collapse the utility companies.
If this reduction is going to compound the situation whereby the company is going to incur more losses as a result of not being able to cover certain key cost components, then I don't think it's going to help anybody at the end of the day.
And Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has described the late broadcast journalist Kwadwo Bafo Asare Champong, popularly called Kaba, as a professional who went about his duty with profound neutrality. The Vice President was speaking after he joined hundreds of mourners at Multimedia Group Limited to pay tribute to the late broadcast journalist.
Vice President led a government delegation to the premises of the Multimedia Group to commiserate with the management and staff following the passing of Kwadwo Asare Bafo Champong. He was accompanied by government officials including Anthony Carbo, MP for Laura, and Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways.
Everybody knows him, either you've known him personally or most likely you've heard him on radio, you've heard his program, and he was one of the best journalists that we have in this country. He plied his trade with such professionalism and with such unbiasedness and such neutrality. And he was a friend of everybody.
The Vice President, after signing the Book of Condolence at the Multimedia premises, visited the Tesano home of the late broadcaster to also commiserate with his family.
Very sad moments there. May his soul rest in peace. That's where we wrap up with News at 10. I'm Stephen Anti. Thank you extremely for making time. On behalf of the crew here, good night. There is more news at 3news.com.